Welcome to the Better Sundays podcast, focused, practical, and usable advice for church leaders looking to reach new young families and impact their community. All right, howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Better Sundays podcast. This is Mike Coles here from Sinclair, Wyoming. Glad that you've been able to join us here. If you're watching this, you got it on YouTube. We've recorded several of these and kind of on a roll here. We've had some really good response and a lot of good views and a lot of good thumbs up. We appreciate that for all our podcasts or for all our YouTube viewers. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you very much for sharing it, and make sure you subscribe either on YouTube or that. But you are at the Better Sundays podcast, and our goal is to help you have better Sundays. We want to give you some practical, simple, usable things that you can put into effect. And so that's what we're talking about today. Our focus here is on how to reach young families, and the little statement we're kind of going through is sometimes to reach young families, you got to do young family things. And we've talked about all sorts of different ones, activities from the church where you do family-oriented things, take everybody out for an ice cream cone, that kind of stuff. Day camps, we've talked about those. We just finished a couple great ones this week, in fact, at our church here. But doing young family kind of things. Now, what are some of those young family kind of things that are out there? There's a lot of them, and these are not any compromise to your doctrine. They're not any compromise to your Bible, or your what you sing, or your music. These are just some techniques that you can add. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about how to use smartphones in church, and just some techniques that you can use. How to follow up people with texting. That was last week's, and you can check on that. If you are wanting to retain guests and get them to come back, you need to go back and catch last week's episode on using texting to retain your guests and bring them back. These young families, they live with texting. They just live with one of those contraptions all the time, and I use one all the time too. And we're going to talk a little bit about this idea of using video. Now, this is something you'd have to use it on a screen, and we talk a little bit about screens. You're going to have to have a screen somewhere, but these are some supplemental things that you can do that don't change your message. They are like introductions to a message. Many times when a pastor is getting ready to, really reach out to young families, preaching a message that really has family solutions in it. And by the way, if you're looking for good training on family solutions, go back to season 1 of our podcast. You can just scroll back and find it if you're watching on iTunes or Spotify or however you're looking at it. But go on back there. Season 1, I believe, is episode 11 through 18, deals all with what we call family solutions. One of the ways you reach young families is you solve their problems. And so these are things that we do through the Bible. I mean, obviously through preaching the Word of God and salvation and obedience and all that. But it's just give you some techniques for some of that. But the idea is when you are preaching, you often give an illustration. You often in the middle, will have an illustration that kind of breaks the pace of the message and talks about things. You often start out with an illustration or maybe a story to kind of gather interest. What we want you to do is to, and you don't do this all the time, you just do this a few times out of the year or, every once in a while, however it works for you, but you can use video. Now you can put it on a screen or you can put it on a projector, however you want, but I'll give you some ideas that you can use that will really enhance, and you talk about engagement, boom. People will be with you when you start moving stuff up on the screen up there, especially when it's people that they know. And that's what we recommend, is doing some short videos. And we're going to cover two things, what we call video montage, or the other one is what we call video testimony. So let me cover the video montage one very simply. So this is the idea of, if you're getting ready to have a message and you want some kind of interest, something to bring everybody in, and then boom, you give them the Bible. You can, whether it's topical or exposition or whatever, but you know where you're going. You're going to obviously teach on a topic, okay? You're going to give them. So if you're doing something, I wrote this one down for like Mother's Day, all right? So you're getting ready to preach Mother's Day, and you kind of do a man on a street interview. You go out with your phone, and you just do it with a phone. It doesn't have to be fancy. And nowadays, young people, they film up and down, okay? I've got mine right here. Let me show you, okay? young people film this way, old people film this way. I don't know. I do it this way because I'm an old, I guess. Yeah, but this is very much the some of the modern stuff, vertical video it's called, and I'm going to show you how to kind of put a little attachment on your phone here, and if you're watching this, it's just a simple thing. I'm just holding the phone, got a little piece of paper taped to it with some questions, but we'll go through that. But you basically hold your phone up and you catch people after church or between services or just any old time, and just go up and you just ask them a question. Like here's one. What is one thing that you really loved about your mom? Okay, and you just say that out loud, and it will be recorded. Okay, while you're there. What's one thing you really love about your mom? Oh, I love my mom because she was always so faithful. I love my mom because she always took care of me when I was a little kid. I love my mom because she was a survivor, and we went through it together because Dad was gone. And these testimonies like this are so powerful. So you go through and you record a bunch of those, and then you just simply from there you edit out obviously the ums and the pauses and things that you don't need, and just put a bunch of them. And then when you get ready to preach on Mother's Day or the week before, you say, hey, I've got some really special stuff we're going to talk about on Mother's Day. Let me give you a little preview. And you play a couple of these little clips. And these are people from your church or maybe people from on the street, town, however you want to do it. But you play a couple of those. Don't forget to come back next week. We're going to cover some more of this on Mother's Day. Talk about interest. Talk about gaining interest. And young people love these type of things. That's why short little clips like that. That's why we have Instagram and TikTok and all the the short little YouTube lives that are 30 seconds long, that kind of stuff. You want to do that. So that is one. That's a montage. It's sort of man on the street. Okay. Let's see. Here's another question you could use. What is one word that describes our church? What's one word that comes to mind and describes our church? And people, they were just, it's friendly or it's kind or I learned the Bible or I got saved or, there's all sorts of interesting things. Then you teach on the church. You teach on the importance of the local church, okay, or evangelism, bringing people into this church, okay. So another one is, in other words, that's a video montage, a man on the street. Another one here I wrote down is just this idea of read and complete. Okay, the read and complete. So basically, you have something, and if you're just listening to this on the podcast, you can't see it, but if you're on video here, I have just holding up my camera and I have a little piece of paper taped to it, and it just says, read this and complete the sentence. And this one says, one word that comes to mind when I think of this church is, and so a person will just answer that question. Another one that's really good. We did this one once. My favorite verse in the Bible is one that says, and then they go and explain the verse, not necessarily the reference. We don't necessarily care that much about the reference as much as what it says. My favorite verse is that one that talks about, amazing grace, or whatever. They try to explain it, and that is a powerful way of testimony. So these are just video montages, okay? Very simple. Another great way, and you've probably seen this on television commercials all the time, is where people are saying a particular statement, Verizon is the best phone in America, blah, 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 or whatever it happens to be. And there's all sorts of people saying it in all sorts of different things, and they're saying the exact same words. Okay, they have that script, and then they kind of clip from one person to another. So an old woman and a younger man and a kid and a teenager, someone on a mountain, someone on a bike or whatever. And those are really fun, okay? So what you do is you have like a statement that you want them to say. For example, they can do a verse like, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. You can break that up. Jesus saith unto them, boom, next person, I am the way, boom, I am the truth, boom, I am the life. No man cometh to the Father, boom, but by me. And you have like 5 or 6 different people say that verse, and you just clip them, put them together. And these do not have to be perfect. You don't have to be Mr. Hollywood to make all this kind of stuff. Everything now on video is relevancy is the most important thing, not excellency. Okay, let me say that again. YouTube is not popular, and video and YouTube, all the like TikTok, all that stuff. The last stuff is not because it's excellent. It's because it's relevant. And so what you need to do is just make these things super relevant and have people just read a verse like that. And that's just a great way to introduce a text, and people are involved with the text. You could have them do a statement like, here's one. If you're preaching on the family, here's a little saying that I use all the time. Your children more attention pay to what you do than what you say. Let me say it again. Your children more attention pay to what you do than what you say. And you have, 15 people say that, and then you just clip, and you put that thing out. And people get to see themselves. They get to see their grandma, they get to see their sister, their brother, their mom or dad up there on the screen, and it's just a really cool thing. So that is a video montage, and it is something that young people do all the time. They see it all the time. It is a young people thing, and it doesn't distract. It only enhances your message, and it brings people in, and they are with you when you preach after you've done something like this. Another one, the second major category here that I want to cover on the podcast is the idea of using video testimonies. Video testimony. And this is a kind of scripted testimony that you have somebody, and say you're preaching on bitterness, okay? And you're covering those verses in Hebrews that talk about bitterness springs up and defiles many. And you ask somebody ahead of time that you know has got the victory over that. Would you mind giving a testimony about having victory over bitterness and how it haunted you for a while, and then you overcame it? And you have them write it out ahead of time, and then you have them practice it, and they do it just on their phone, and you kind of help them. And this is such a great way of discipleship, because we've had such great conversations about how all this stuff works, the Bible and all that, because you're really helping somebody create a short, concise, maybe a minute, maybe 90-second testimony on something like that, and you're refining them. You really get to spend great time with them, and then their testimony is part of your message. So you go in and say, hey, we've all had struggles with bitterness. The Bible says there's just these 3 things to get rid of it, 1, 2, and 3, and you're partway through number 2, and you say, and here is how someone right here in our congregation got the victory. Click, okay, and their testimony plays right there. People are with you. This is a young family, young people kind of a thing, and it is an excellent way. The other video testimonies we do all the time are video baptism testimonies. Okay, now you can have people stand up in front and do testimonies, and that's okay too, and we have done plenty of that. Sometimes you get something you're not expecting, okay, that you can be a little careful about that. And sometimes emotions will overtake a person, and they will begin to cry and sob, and then they don't speak clearly, and no one really knows what happened other than it was very emotional for them. So what you want to do is record these ahead of time. That's how we recommend. You can do both. It doesn't matter. But record them ahead of time. And so we do video testimonies of salvation, and we show these the day before the person is baptized or the day of. So we run a couple services on Sunday morning, so we can't have them. It's harder to have people in both services, so because lots of times they're doing things. I mean, they're involved in other things. So we have them do their testimony, and the same thing. We sit down and work with them on their testimony, and many times we clarify things while we're talking, and they'll talk about, and that's why I want to be baptized, because I want to be saved. And it's like, no, the baptism doesn't save you. It's a picture of your salvation. It's like, okay, I remember that now. And they're young, and they don't necessarily grab all that, and it really helps to work on this testimony with them. And then we play those boom, 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 boom during our service, or at the end of the service is how we normally do that. And then we have a baptism either at the river or somewhere appropriate. So baptism testimonies work great. Personal testimonies and a message work great. And these video montages are work great. And all of these are what we call young people things. And I want to encourage you out there that if you are wanting to really fine-tune your messages, the idea of doing this ahead of time, believe me, you can't do this on Saturday night and pull this off, okay? These are things you have to think about 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time. And when you get to that message and you've been working on it for 3 or 4 weeks and you have testimonies in it, it is that much better of a message because you've just put so much into it. And so it's just a powerful, powerful thing. So I want to encourage you to do that. If this has been helpful to you, hit that like button. I really appreciate those that hit the like on YouTube or the thumbs up or on YouTube, however it works. Subscribing on either place, wherever you are, and sharing it, and of course making comments. That would be great as well. So anyway, from ReachKeep headquarters here in Sinclair, Wyoming. This is Mike Holmes. I'm signing out. I am looking forward to spending the next several weeks with you, continuing talking about how to reach young families by doing young family things. So make sure you subscribe, and we will see you next week. God bless. We will catch you later. Take care.